This tutorial video is for users of game scripting software that have a level of experience of intermediate or above. ScriptPro has four main areas: elements, schedules, go live, and documents. We'll touch on settings at the end. The home screen is indicated by this look. On the right-hand side is the news column. Any news updates will be pushed out this way. Of course, in the center are those boxes I mentioned previously, and on the left are icons that associate with those boxes: elements, schedules, go live, documents, and the settings. When the user logs in for the first time, in the top left-hand side, what I have highlighted, it will say Personal Instance. To get to your team area, click on the Show Instances button at the bottom. All the teams you have access to will open up. Click on your team name, and then you'll be here at your team site. I'll start with Elements. This is the Elements home screen. You'll see multiple colors. These colors can come from several different ways. First is you can default a certain element type to be a color, such as all the events pink, all the lives blue, all of the PA reads black background, orange font. Colors can also come from individual elements when you double-click in an element. This lower left-hand side options menu can give you the opportunity to change colors for a specific element. The third way colors can come about are the system default colors. If it's green, that means that the element is currently selective or active, and I'll move it there. If it's orange, like Taco Town, PA, that means that it changes every game, and we will get into that in a second. If it's purple, it's on Notify, and again, we'll get to that in a minute. And finally, this cross through is in Ignore, and that also goes along with the changes every game and the Notify. Across the top are the element fields. Here they're displayed as columns. This is the default area and the default look. To change what element fields or columns you see, click on the Options menu and check mark on and off what you'd like to see. If I need to see the audio notes, I check mark that on. You'll see the screen changed, and the audio notes now are on the right-hand side. I can drag and drop any of these columns to reorganize them, and I can also resize them. If I want to see only the audio and visual columns and I want a permanent look so I can flip back and forth easily, I can go to Options, select what columns I want. In this case, there'll be things associated with audio visual. Let's assume those are my columns. And if this is the look that I permanently want to see, I will go to Views, hit the plus sign, name this, and hit Save. Now it's active with the check mark. I'll go back to default. This is what we see when we first log in. I can now go to Views, go down to Audio Visual, and there's that saved format. I'll now go back to default view. You can copy an element, highlighting it green, hit copy, and here it is. It will copy after you hit the save button. You can also archive it by hitting the X, and it will send it to the archive area. Something new in this version is you can edit directly onto the screen. Click Edit Mode. Click into what you want to change. Here we'll change the Bank of America t-shirt thank you from 45 seconds to 1 minute 45 seconds by touching the cell, going into it and hitting 1, turning off edit mode, and it's saved at 1:45. Finally on the screen is the element boxes themselves. The left-hand side menu, this is the element type set up for your team. Across the top is the name. Here are the element fields that you can type content into. The Ready button means that it is ready to go. The Change button means it changes every game, and that would be indicated by that orange color. That's an example of perhaps the national anthem that you play every game, but something in there changes, such as the name of the singer. You can also notify by hitting purple, and teams use that color for different reasons. And finally, the ignore, which is the strike through. If you go to the timing tab, this is where you can set timing for an element. The workflow for ScriptPro is to create the elements, and then they will slide automatically into the production schedule. And that's because of the timing. So here in the timing tab, you set the duration. If you want it in the pre-game time frame, and you want it to go into the gates open area, it will go in every future schedule that you create into the pre-game, into the gates open. Load order is not necessary, but if you want to get very detailed, if you type the number 0, it will always load first in the pre-game gates open segment. If you want it to load third, you put the number 2. 0, 1, and then 2 would be the third that it loads. If this only takes place on Thursdays, hit the Thursday button, and all Thursdays will be highlighted. That means it will only go in the production schedules that have a date of a Thursday. You can do this multiple times with Tuesday, Thursday. You can also turn this off by clicking those day buttons and then randomly selecting dates by scrolling through the calendar. I'll hit reset timing here and go back to June. And if it's the July 4th or some other holiday specific read or something that takes place during a date range, you can have it go into every schedule in between a date range, and it will go in every schedule, again, in the pregame area in gates open. If you don't know what area of the game it's going to go in yet, you can talk with your team members and come up with a plan. Most commonly, it would then go in drop-ins, which then would go into the schedule, into the segment called drop-ins, and it will allow you to drag and drop it in at a later point. Next, we'll go to production schedules. To create a new production schedule, hit +sign schedule, name it, put the date. Again, if this is a Thursday, all Thursday Taco Town Thursday reads will go in if Taco Town Thursday is supposed to populate on a Thursday date. Type in the opponent, the location, and any notes. These are your pregame segments down here, and they associate with a time in your settings area. If I know that kickoff is at 3 o'clock, based on my settings, the segments will pre-populate the time that they take place. Hit save, and then go into the production schedule. And the production schedule goes left to right. The blue bars are time frames and segments, where time frame is indicated by the small all caps font pregame here, and the segment name is listed in a larger font, all caps, season ticket holder gates. Again, pregame is the time frame, season ticket holder gates is the segment. Same thing here, pregame is the time frame, gates open is the segment name. On the left-hand side is the duration. This shows that this segment lasts 30 minutes, and it has 27 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. This is auto-calculated by ScriptPro based on the element duration column. You'll see here with 30 seconds is 1 minute, 1 minute is 2 minutes, and then add 30 seconds is 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes from 30 is that 27:30. You can filter by clicking the filter button right to the right of that and typing in a word, and it will pull up all of that with the word SPEC. On the right-hand side is the time of day. This is what time it is on someone's watch, and it is indicated by the 1:34 p.m. on the right-hand side, and that is usually through the settings area preset by the team. If you don't have that setting, you would hand set these when producing a production schedule from the very beginning. The countdown column, if active, counts down to the next segment or counts down to the start of the game depending on your individual team setting. The clock time is what is currently showing on the scoreboard. That will also count down to the start of the game. What's important to note here is that the start of the game is always indicated by the first in-game time frame segment. In this case, kickoff. In some sports, the clock hits 0, and there's still 4 or 5 minutes of PA reads, starting lineups, and national anthems. In that case, the clock would hit 0, and there'd still be 4 or 5 minutes on the countdown column to go into the in-game tip-off or in-game kickoff, depending on your team. If you open up the Elements button, you can drag and drop elements in by highlighting an element and dropping it in. To remove it, highlight it green and hit the Remove button at the top side. To sort within these elements, click on the Name column. You can sort descending, sort ascending. I'll remove the sort now. And you can filter this way too by typing in the word game or another word, and all those will come up. If you have no filter setting and no setting of the ascending, descending, or ascending order, they will show up based on what is in the game production schedule. The light color means it is in the production schedule. The dark color font means it is not in the game production schedule. Across the top, the View button works the same as it does in Elements, as does the Edit button. There's that Element button. Options will allow you to change what columns you see by checkmarking on and off. So I'll checkmark on audio file and close this off, and you'll see audio file name has appeared. On the right-hand side is Details. This is where you can list the schedule as in process. If you click Ready and close out, the number 7 brain test, for example, if we move it, it will still have that number 7, even though it is now not the 7th element. If I go back to Options, Details, and click in Process, you'll see now it is renumbered where brain test is number 9 based on the first 8 elements there taking up those numbers. Hit Ready and it'll lock those numbers in place. If you watch clock time right now, it says 1 hour and 26 minutes. Most scoreboards do not read like that. They read in minute format. And so going over to the right-hand side, again in the Details, if you turn on these 2 buttons, that turns on the minute format, you'll see here that that hour 26 has turned to 86 minutes. Finally, in this area, you can also add a segment by hitting the plus segment sign, typing in the name, adding the time and where you want it to go. You can also add an element by hitting plus sign element and hitting save. If you need to edit this element, you have to open it up and then edit it this way and hit save. When you create an element in a production schedule, as we just did, it will not go to the elements area and it will not go to any future schedule. This is specific for this one production schedule. If you hit save to elements, it will now make a copy of it and save it to the general elements area. Then you'll be able to use it for future games. Going now to the Go Live area, after the production schedule is complete, you can open it up in Go Live. This is called the one window view, where the left-hand side is the queue, the middle is the schedule, and the right-hand side is the viewer. With auto scroll on, this green button indicates that it's on. If I click done, everyone's computer screen will scroll through to the next element. If I made a mistake and we're not ready to go to the next element yet, I can click undone, go up to it and click undone, and it will back it up. In this case, this is a test element applied to source. We have a timestamp. Every time you hit done, it timestamps that. If you hit done twice on the same element, it will create 2 timestamps. This is great for producing affidavits or proof of performance for sponsors. To create your custom view for this screen or for any user, use the Options menu on the right-hand side. Opening up the Options menu, you'll see here we're in the one window view. Underneath that, the sub window here has 3 options: the queue, the columns, and the viewer. The queue is on the left-hand side of the screen. It is on, indicated by the green button. If I turn that off, you'll see it disappears, and this allows for some more screen real estate. I'll turn it back on. Then we go to columns. This is what you see in the center of the screen. Try to keep this as small as possible, because the more columns you have, the less room you have to see other things. So I'll turn on audio file name, and to see that, I'll have to move the screen a little bit. And there it is. I'll remove that now. And then go to viewer. On the right-hand side is the viewer, and this is what you want to see for each element. So if this is the PA announcer, perhaps they don't need to see anything else other than the PA script for an element. And so by turning everything else off and keeping the PA script on, you'll see that only the PA script is seen for each element. This is normal text, but you can make it huge text or large text. You can also capitalize it by hitting all caps. And if you need to make a change, hit the pencil, go in here and make a change, hit the save button, and you'll see it saved. If you go to edit mode, it works the same way as in other areas. Same thing with views, elements, and segments. If you open up the queue, you'll see here that the whole list is not checked, but if I check one of them, gates open, only the gates open area will show. Finally, we'll go to documents. The document template is set up specifically so that you do not have to have a lot of documents for each game named. Rather, you have one template, named a PA script, that you can print for each game. The traditional way of printing this will be to first click on PDF. It will split the screen into 2. Then select your schedule. And you'll see what's on the left-hand side is what's on the right-hand side. If I go to Options, this is where I'll select grayscale, landscape, or break rows, and also the font size. The columns area is where I'll select what columns need to be printed out. And the filter will allow me to filter down many different options, perhaps by different dates, different element types, different time frames. Again, I'm creating a template. So if I save this template here, any changes I made are saved for that template, not for the one game itself. So when I go into PA script and split the screen, I will have those same settings no matter the schedule I go through. To print, right underneath the PDF button is the print icon. That will use your printer settings and print it in PDF. You can also download it with the download arrow or export this to Excel. The other way to print this is to not use the PDF and rather use this screen right here and hit the red print button, which will use the native printing software within your web browser. This will print everything on the screen as it appears, much like if you print a picture or a newspaper article off the internet. It may not look like a traditional script that comes in PDF format, but this is another option to print and has less coding involved. You can create as many templates as you need by going to +sign template, naming the template, making sure it's shared among everyone, and hitting the save button. And then for each game, you'll be able to print a sponsor proof, PA script, a rundown, or whatever your team needs. The final area is settings. Now that you know what everything looks like, let's take it from the finish line all the way back to the start line where we first set up teams. Here are the element types with the various colors. You don't have to have colors, but if you want to, we suggest you stay away from the orange, green, purple, red, and other system default colors. The element fields is in that element box and what you see exactly type in right here, audio, video, and you can change text field to rich text field, checkbox, or dropdown. The documents area, if you would like to print only on specific documents, you can use that filter in the documents area. You'll notice there's no timing and no sponsor tab. That is because those are not able to be adjusted by the users. To add a tab, click Add Tab. And this is the Intern Responsibility tab, where I'm going to add a new field. And I can assign the interns a certain job to do. If I need to delete the tab, it's highlighted here with the green underline. Hit delete, and it will delete that intern tab. Finally, the segments and timeframes. These 5 are the timeframes. They cannot be changed or edited. It's pre-game, in-game, post-game, as happens in drop-ins. Within each timeframe are segments. These can be changed and customized for each team. This is how you create the template for each game, and when you produce a production schedule, those timings come from the segment durations. Remember that when you want the game to start and you want the clock to hit 0 or you want the countdown to hit 0, depending on your sport, this is where the software will stop counting the time of day. The first segment inside the in-game time frame. You can set the duration of each segment. If you want it to count down within the segment, you click Countdown Time. If you want to reset the countdown time, click the check mark. That is useful if you want to know how much time is left, not before the game starts, but before the next segment starts. You can hit Page Break, and that will break the page when printing. The final menu option is Admin. You will not see this on your screen. To add a user or give a user permission of editor or view only, please contact customer support or your account executive.